Captain James Walker stood straight and tall in the center of the massive Galactic Council chamber. The circular room towered hundreds of feet above him, its crystalline walls filled with thousands of alien representatives from across the galaxy. Their quiet whispers echoed through the chamber as they stared down at the lone human figure. Walker took a deep breath, his Earth Defense Force uniform crisp and neat. He knew this presentation would determine humanity's place among the stars. Behind him, a hologram showed Earth's military capabilities, currently displaying an M4500 combat rifle, the standard weapon of Earth's military. "Honorable Council members," Walker began, his voice clear and steady. "Earth presents its military capabilities for review, as required for full membership consideration." A sound like rustling leaves filled the chamber. Walker realized the aliens were laughing. From the highest tier, a Brightwing representative stood up. Their metallic feathers caught the light, creating rainbow patterns on the walls. "You bring projectile weapons, physical bullets." The translator conveyed the aliens' amusement. "We abandoned such primitive tools 10,000 years ago." Walker kept his face neutral. "Our weapons are highly effective, Council member. This rifle can shoot small pieces of metal," interrupted another alien. This one a blob-like creature that glowed with internal energy. More laughter followed. "We use concentrated plasma beams, antimatter cannons, and quantum disruptors. Your bullets would not even reach our ships through our energy shields." The council leader, a tall being with silvery skin, raised a hand for silence. "Captain Walker, while we appreciate Earth's application, we must express concern. Your species still relies on kinetic weapons when the rest of the galaxy has moved to energy-based technology. This suggests a significant technological gap." Walker tried again. "With respect, our weapons have proven reliable against other humans, perhaps," the Brightwing representative cut in, "but utterly useless against modern defenses. Watch." The alien pressed a button, and a shimming energy shield appeared in front of them. "This is our most basic civilian shield technology. Please, demonstrate your weapon." Walker looked at the council leader, who nodded permission. With practiced movements, Walker raised his rifle, aimed at the shield, and fired a single shot. The bullet dissolved harmlessly against the energy field. The chamber erupted in another wave of laughter. "You see," the Brightwings spread their metallic wings. "Your most advanced weapons cannot penetrate even our simplest defenses. How can Earth expect equal standing in the galaxy with such obsolete technology?" The council leader raised their hand again. "The council has reached a decision. Earth will be granted provisional membership, with restricted voting rights until your species develops more appropriate military technology." Walker felt his jaw tighten, but years of military discipline kept his voice steady. "We accept the Council's decision. However, I must note for the record that humanity's weapons technology should not be underestimated. Our history has proven—" Yes, the blob-like alien interrupted. "Your violent history is well documented. But you face advanced civilizations now, Captain. Perhaps in a few centuries, you will catch up to modern standards." As Walker left the chamber, he heard the Brightwing representative speaking to others. "Can you imagine? They still use explosives to launch metal projectiles. Their ships fire physical missiles. It's like watching children play with toys." Walker's communicator buzzed. It was a message from Earth Command. "Intel reports unusual Brightwing fleet movements near our borders. Stay alert." He looked back at the laughing council members, remembering humanity's long history of warfare. They had laughed at his weapons, but Walker knew something they didn't. In all of Earth's conflicts, the side with the fancier weapons didn't always win. It was often the side that had the simplest, most reliable tools, and the will to use them effectively. Walking to his ship, Walker couldn't help but think that the galaxy's advanced civilizations had forgotten some very basic lessons about warfare. Sometimes, the old ways were the best ways, and sometimes, being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. Tom Miller sat in his dimly lit office at Earth Defense Intelligence, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. Dozens of red dots moved across the star map, each representing a Brightwing warship. The pattern was clear, but nobody wanted to believe it. He pressed a button on his desk. "Captain Walker, you need to see this." 10 minutes later, Walker stood in the office, staring at the same display. "They're surrounding our outer colonies," he said quietly. "Exactly." Miller pointed to several clusters of red dots. "They've been moving ships for the past month. Small groups, nothing suspicious on its own. But when you put it all together..." He pressed another button, and lines appeared connecting the dots. They formed a net around Earth's territory. "Have you reported this to the Council?" Walker asked. Miller laughed without humor. "3 times. They say it's just routine patrol movements. The Brightwings claim they're conducting training exercises." "Training for what?" Before Miller could answer, his screen flashed with an urgent message from the weapons testing facility. Kate Ross stood behind thick safety glass, watching as robots set up the test. On one side was a standard-issue Earth rifle. On the other, 30 feet away, floated one of the Brightwing energy shields they'd managed to acquire. "Test 47 starting," she spoke into her recorder. "Standard ammunition, no modifications." Her assistant looked nervous. "The Council representatives said these shields are impenetrable to kinetic weapons. Maybe we should focus on developing energy weapons instead." "The Council says a lot of things," Ross replied. "Let's trust our data, not their words." She pressed the button. The rifle, mounted on a robotic stand, fired a single shot. The bullet hit the shield and passed straight through, embedding itself in the concrete wall behind. Ross smiled. "Just as I thought." "Play back the high-speed footage." The screen showed the bullet's journey in extreme slow motion. The energy shield, designed to stop plasma weapons, had tried to disperse energy that wasn't there. The simple lead bullet, carrying only kinetic force, had passed through almost unopposed. "Their shields are specialized," Ross explained, making notes. "They're perfect for stopping energy weapons, but that's all they do. They've optimized their defenses against the wrong type of attack." "We should tell the Council," her assistant said. "Already tried. They called it flawed methodology and refused to review the data." Ross started preparing for another test. "They're so convinced of their technological superiority that they can't see their own weakness." Back in his office, Walker read Ross's latest test results with growing concern. The Brightwing's fleet movements, their dismissal of Earth's weapons, their refusal to even look at the test data, it all pointed to one thing. His communicator buzzed. It was Miller again. 3 more Brightwing battle groups just jumped into the outer sectors, Miller said without greeting. "They're not even trying to hide it anymore." Walker thought about the Council chamber, about their laughter at Earth's primitive weapons. They had dismissed humanity as backwards, treating them like children playing with toys. That dismissal might end up being humanity's greatest advantage. "Send everything we have to Earth Command," Walker ordered. "The fleet movements, Ross's weapons tests, all of it. And get me a secure line to Admiral Hayes." "Already done," Miller replied. "Hayes says to tell you that Operation Thunderbolt is ready, just waiting for the Brightwings to make their move." Walker looked out his window at the setting sun. Somewhere up there, the Brightwing ships were moving into position, their crews confident in their superior technology. They had no idea that their primitive enemies had already figured out how to defeat their perfect defenses. The real question was, how many would have to die before the Council finally stopped laughing? The Brightwing attack began at dawn. On New Hope Colony, 50 Marines watched their radar screens as hundreds of alien ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The colony's warning sirens blared across the settlement of 10,000 civilians. "All civilians to the bunkers," Lieutenant Mark Adams ordered through the colony speakers. "This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." From his position in the defense tower, Adams watched the Brightwing ships fill the sky. Their metallic hulls gleamed like polished mirrors, each one bigger than the colony's largest building. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. "Command says reinforcements are 6 hours away," his sergeant reported. "We're on our own until then." Adams nodded. 50 Marines against an alien army. The Brightwings probably expected the colony to surrender immediately. "Get everyone in position. Standard weapons only. No energy rifles." The sergeant looked surprised. "Sir, shouldn't we use the new plasma guns the Council gave us?" "Negative. Trust me on this one." The first Brightwing transport landed a mile from the colony walls. Its doors opened, and armored troops marched out in perfect formation. Each carried an energy weapon that could vaporize a tank. Their personal shields shimmered in the morning light. Through his binoculars, Adams saw more transports landing. The Brightwing commander's voice boomed across the distance. "Primitive humans, your colony is surrounded. Your weapons are useless against our shields. Surrender now and be spared." Adams picked up his radio. "This is Lieutenant Adams of the Earth Defense Force. We decline your offer." Laughter echoed from the Brightwing lines. "Then you choose death. Warriors, advance. Show these primitives the power of modern weapons." The alien army moved forward like a gleaming wave. Energy shields created an impenetrable wall in front of them. Their weapons powered up with a high-pitched whine that filled the air. Adams waited until they were 500 yards away. "All units," he said calmly into his radio. "Weapons free. Fire at will." 50 human rifles opened fire. The sound was deafening. Bullets that the Council had laughed at, called primitive, and dismissed as toys, streaked across the battlefield. The Brightwings kept advancing, confident in their shields. Then the bullets hit. The first line of aliens fell as if struck by lightning. Their energy shields, designed to stop plasma bolts and laser beams, did nothing against simple lead bullets. The Brightwings' perfect formation dissolved into chaos. "Impossible." The alien commander screamed. "Their primitive weapons cannot." A sniper's bullet cut his sentence short. "Keep firing," Adams ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The Brightwings tried to return fire. Their energy weapons lit up the morning sky with beautiful colors. But the humans had taken cover behind concrete walls. No fancy shields, just solid material that absorbed the energy blasts. More alien transports landed, sending thousands of troops forward. Each wave met the same fate as the first. Bullets tore through their lines while their advanced weapons splashed harmlessly against the colony's simple defenses. After an hour, the Brightwings retreated. The field before the colony was littered with their dead and wounded. Their perfect shields still sparkled in the sunlight, completely intact and completely useless. Adams' radio crackled. "Lieutenant, this is Earth Command. Reinforcements are still 5 hours out. Can you hold?" He looked at his Marines. They were already reloading, checking their weapons, and counting their remaining ammunition. Simple, reliable tools that had just proven their worth against the galaxy's most advanced army. "We'll hold," Adams replied. "But you might want to send someone to tell the Council what happened here." Their perfect shields just failed against 50 humans with regular rifles. As if in response to his words, the Brightwing ships in orbit began powering up their weapons. The real battle was about to begin. But now the aliens knew the truth. Humanity's primitive weapons weren't so primitive after all. Adams checked his own rifle and smiled. Sometimes, the old ways really were the best ways. Admiral Peter Hayes stood on the bridge of the EDF Thunderbolt, watching as his fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel. Ahead of them, the massive Brightwing armada surrounded New Hope Colony. Their ships glowed with energy weapons, still firing at the stubborn human defenders below. "Status report," Hayes ordered. 50 ships ready for combat, Admiral," his tactical officer replied. "All railguns loaded. Missile tubes prepared." "The Brightwings haven't spotted us yet." Hayes nodded. "The aliens have positioned their fleet perfectly to defend against energy weapons. Their ships faced the colony, shields optimized to stop plasma attacks from the surface. None of them were looking up. "Send the message we prepared," Hayes commanded. "Let's see if they'll be smarter than their ground forces." The communications officer transmitted the warning. "Brightwing Fleet, this is Admiral Hayes of the Earth Defense Force. Withdraw from our colony or be destroyed." The alien response came quickly. Their admiral's image appeared on the main screen, metallic feathers shimmering with amusement. "More primitives. Your fleet is outnumbered 3-1. Our shields can withstand any weapon you possess. Leave now, and we might spare your lives." Hayes smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that. All ships, execute Operation Thunderbolt." The human fleet opened fire. Railguns, another primitive human weapon, launched metal slugs at a significant fraction of light speed. The Brightwing ships, their shields tuned for energy weapons, might as well have been naked in space. The first volley tore through 30 alien ships like paper. Explosions lit up the black of space as their reactor cores breached. The Brightwing Admiral's smug expression turned to horror. "Impossible," he screamed. "Our shields are perfect. Your primitive weapons cannot." "Your shields stop energy," Hayes interrupted. "They do nothing against good old-fashioned kinetic impacts, and that was just our railguns. Would you like to see our missiles?" The Brightwing fleet scrambled to reposition, but they were too slow. Their ships, designed for long-range energy battles, couldn't match the brutal efficiency of human weapons. Each time they tried to bring their energy weapons to bear, the human ships would close in and hammer them with projectiles. "Second wave, launch missiles," Hayes ordered. "Let's show them another human tradition." The torpedoes spread. Hundreds of missiles streaked across space. The Brightwing's point defense systems, designed to stop energy torpedoes, couldn't track the simple rocket-propelled weapons. Their shields flickered uselessly as missiles slammed into their hulls. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "the enemy fleet is breaking formation. They're trying to retreat." Hayes watched as the mighty Brightwing Armada fell into chaos. Ships collided with each other in their panic to escape, their perfect formations forgotten. The aliens had never expected to face an enemy who fought like this. "Permission to pursue, sir?" his captain asked. Hayes considered it. The Brightwings were running, but they still outnumbered his fleet. Fighting retreat was another human tradition they'd apparently forgotten. "Negative," he decided. "Hold position around the colony. Let them run. They'll spread the word faster than we could." On the main screen, the Brightwing Admiral appeared one last time. Gone was the arrogance, replaced by fear and confusion. "This is impossible. The Council said your technology was primitive. Your weapons are barbaric. This isn't how warfare is conducted in civilized space." "You're right," Hayes replied calmly. "This isn't how you fight wars. This is how we fight them. And we're very, very good at it. Run back to your council. Tell them what primitive human weapons did to your perfect shields. Tell them what happens when you underestimate humanity." As the remaining Brightwing ships flowed into faster-than-light travel, Hayes looked down at New Hope Colony. The Marine defenders had held out against impossible odds, buying time for the fleet to arrive. They'd proven that humanity's old weapons still had their place in the galaxy. Sometimes, Hayes thought, watching the last Brightwing ship disappear, the most advanced weapon isn't the most effective one. Sometimes, you just need a really big gun and the will to use it. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos. Hundreds of alien representatives shouted and argued as footage from the Battle of New Hope Colony played on the massive screens. They watched in horror as simple human bullets tore through the Brightwings' perfect energy shields. The recording showed the space battle next, where human railguns and missiles destroyed the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. Dr. Anna Reed, Earth's diplomatic representative, stood calmly in the center of the storm. She had waited patiently through years of the Council's mockery. Now it was time for humanity to be heard. The Brightwing ambassador rose from his seat, metallic feathers bristling with rage. "This is an outrage," he screeched. The humans used forbidden weapons. Their barbaric projectiles ignore all civilized conventions of warfare. Forbidden. Reed's voice cut through the noise. Please show me where in the Council's laws it states that kinetic weapons are forbidden. The Council leader called for silence. There is no such law, they admitted. We simply assumed such primitive weapons were no longer used. A dangerous assumption, Reed replied. One that cost thousands of Brightwing lives in an unprovoked attack on our colony. The chamber grew quiet. On the screens, the battle footage continued to play. The Brightwing ambassador's wings drooped as he watched his species' most powerful ships torn apart by human primitive technology. How? A blob-like alien asked. Our scientists said kinetic weapons were obsolete. Energy shields should stop any physical attack. Kate Ross stepped forward. Earth's weapons engineer had brought her full test data to the Council. Your shields are designed to stop energy weapons, she explained. They spread out the impact of plasma bolts and laser beams, but they can't stop simple bullets or railgun slugs. You optimized your defenses against the wrong type of attack. She pressed a button, and new diagrams appeared on the screens. Look at the data. Your energy shields try to disperse power that isn't there. Our bullets have no energy signature to stop. They pass right through. The Council chamber filled with murmurs as representatives from smaller species began taking notes. Several were already talking quietly with their staff about reviewing military doctrine and exploring alternative weapons technology. This is not just about weapons, Reed continued. It's about assumptions. The Council assumed that newer meant better. You forgot that sometimes the simple solution is the most effective one. The Brightwing ambassador slammed his hand on his podium. You cannot be allowed to keep these weapons. They make our defenses worthless. I demand the Council order Earth to switch to proper energy weapons immediately. Laughter filled the chamber. Human laughter. Captain James Walker had entered with Admiral Hayes and Lieutenant Adams. The defenders of New Hope Colony stood proud in their primitive uniforms, wearing the simple projectile weapons that had changed the galaxy's balance of power. You demand, Hayes asked quietly. You attacked our colony. You tried to kill our people. And now you demand we give up the weapons that defended them. The Brightwing Empire cannot accept the existence of weapons that bypass our shields, the ambassador insisted. If you refuse to give them up, we will be forced to. To what? Walker interrupted. Launch another attack. How did that work out for your last 3 fleets? The Council leader raised their hand for silence. Perhaps we have been too hasty in our judgments. The recent events have shown that humanity's approach to technology, while different from our own, is effective. Very effective, a new voice added. The observer species representative, from one of the galaxy's smaller civilizations, stood up. My people have watched this conflict with great interest. We believe there are many lessons to be learned from Earth's military doctrine. More representatives voiced their agreement. The Council chamber's mood shifted as species after species acknowledged the strength of humanity's primitive technology. The Brightwing ambassador watched in horror as his allies abandoned him. Tom Miller, watching from the back of the chamber, smiled as he read the latest intelligence reports on his tablet. The Brightwing Empire's 3rd Fleet just surrendered to Earth forces, he announced. Their commanders said they refused to fight against weapons their shields couldn't stop. The Brightwing ambassador's feathers drooped completely. The Empire requests a ceasefire, he said quietly. We will withdraw all forces from human space immediately. Accepted, Reed replied firmly. On one condition. The Council must grant Earth full membership and equal voting rights. No more treating us as primitive or backward. The Council leader looked around the chamber. No one objected. Even the Brightwing ambassador remained silent. Agreed, the leader declared. Earth is granted full Council membership, effective immediately. Additionally, they paused, looking uncomfortable. Several member species have already requested technical exchanges with Earth's military engineers. Kate Ross stepped forward again. We'd be happy to help, she said. In fact, we've developed some interesting hybrid technologies combining kinetic and energy weapons. Sometimes the old and the new work better together. The chamber buzzed with excitement. Representatives crowded around Ross, eager to learn about Earth's weapons technology. The same council members who had laughed at primitive human guns now wanted to understand everything about them. Walker watched it all from the sidelines, standing with Adams and Hayes. "Quite a change from my first presentation," he said quietly. "Amazing what a few well-placed bullets can do." Adams replied with a grin. "Think they've learned their lesson about underestimating humanity." Hayes shook his head. "They've learned not to underestimate our weapons. The real lesson is bigger than that. They forgot that progress isn't always a straight line. Sometimes you have to look back to move forward." In the days that followed, the galaxy's balance of power shifted dramatically. The Brightwing Empire sued for peace, their military reputation shattered by their defeat at human hands. Smaller species, tired of living under the shadow of energy shield technology, began developing their own kinetic weapons programs. Earth's weapons manufacturers received countless trade requests. Human military advisors were invited to help modernize alien armies. The Council established new combat doctrines that combined energy and kinetic weapons, creating stronger defensive systems that could handle both types of attack. 1 month after the Battle of New Hope Colony, the Council leader made a formal announcement. "The recent conflict has taught us a valuable lesson. Progress is not just about moving forward. It is about understanding all paths of development." Earth's primitive technology proved to be anything but primitive. They simply took a different path, one we were too proud to see. Dr. Reed, now head of Earth's new council delegation, stood in the chamber where Captain Walker had once been mocked for displaying a simple rifle. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had proved its worth not through advanced technology, but through the practical application of proven tools. "The future of warfare," she told the council, "lies not in choosing between old and new, but in understanding the strengths of both. Humanity doesn't need to catch up to your technology. We need to work together to create something better than either of us had alone." The chamber filled with applause. Above them, in orbit around the council world, human ships patrolled alongside alien vessels. Their primitive railguns and missiles stood ready beside advanced energy weapons, a symbol of the new balance in the galaxy. Sometimes the old ways were still the best ways, and sometimes it took a reminder from the past to build a better future.